Hello and welcome back to another installment of KED Talks. My name is Yulin and I'm here today with Stephen Harwood, a name that many of you might recognize from articles about breath control. Stephen is a longtime martial arts practitioner. He's done Kendo, Niten Ichiru, Iaido, Aikido, Karate. You did your master's thesis in Japanese on breath control. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julian.
So, actually, we reposted the article recently on our Patreon, and I'll post the link in the video description below. But it actually got a lot of people interested, and they really wanted to hear more about breath control in Kendo. So, I mean, maybe we'll start with a simple one. What is breath control? Why is it important?
That's not simple at all. I actually wrote a thesis on this, so if it was that simple, it would have been a very short thesis. Well, let's look at what is breath control in Kendo. In essentially, you're talking about abdominal breathing, so breathing.
Is that the same thing as tanden breathing?
Exactly, tanden breathing. Yes, exactly. Tanden breathing is a better term for it because it's more precise as to what we do in Kendo. But let's put a pin in that and come back to maybe we talk about the technical side, because it is very technical actually. The physiology of breathing in Kendo. Not many people talk about this. It's not taught, but there are some sort of accounts or treatises that touch on breathing in Kendo that I used as sort of references when I was researching for my thesis. So essentially, what is Kendo breathing? It's tanden, or a form of abdominal breathing. Why should we study? Why do we study it? Why is it important? Well, it really depends on what you want to get out of Kendo. It's important on all levels, actually. It's important for sort of physical reasons, but it's also important very much for, if you're practicing Kendo as ascetic training in a way to change, develop you as a person, then really that's the ultimate aim of Kendo, stated in the Kendo Rinen, that it's Ningen Keisen no Michi, a path of making a person, a human being. Now, it depends how you interpret that, but some people interpret that as path as door, as Tao, a path of aesthetic training that should change you as a person. Well, eventually, being involved in a training regime that emphasizes a certain form of breathing can change you in certain ways. So we can go into that later, but in a nutshell, it depends on the level you're pitching, both your Kendo and the level at which you're engaged in breath control.
So, then maybe let's start with the basics. What are some of the basics of breath control in Kendo, and how do I improve it?
Okay, really, when you talk about breath control in Kendo, it's really indistinguishable from posture. So, if somebody's being taught Kendo in a traditional way, they're often not taught about breath, but they're very much taught about their posture and how their upper body should be relaxed and their lower body should have strength in it. And everybody, I think most people, hopefully, who are doing Kendo will recognize that.
As if you're suspended from a string above your head, kind of.
Yes, posture should be straight, but also centered on the lower half of your body, not the upper half. And there's all, by training, I'm a social anthropologist. My first degree was in Japanese. I'm a Japanologist. And I was looking at and also I like doing Kendo. So I was looking at a sort of what can we learn about Japanese culture via Kendo from looking at what Kendo is about. And if you look at so comparatively, if you compare it with the West and compare it with how Western civilization sort of looks at posture and looks at body shape. Sorry, I'm translating in my head now from Japanese. Then you've got the Greek sort of view of the ideal physique for a man is triangular, upside down triangle, inverted triangle, broad shoulders.
The really broad shoulders, the narrow waist.
Yeah. But that's not universal, and in the East, it never has been. It's been the opposite, a triangle like this, where look at the way Buddha sits and the way that
the middle-aged dad bod physique.
Yeah, which is great for me, actually. No. But more of a sort of a centering lower down, a grounding lower down. So that's reflected in kendo, that posture. I mean, kendo is not just about hitting people with sticks. It's more than that. And so and it's common with all Japanese martial arts, and in all Japanese traditional aesthetic training, you know, is this concentration on the lower body, on not being up too high and unbalanced, literally unbalanced. I mean, kendo, if you walk around like this in kendo, you're going to get hit. When you do kirikaishi, you don't go up and down, up and down. You're supposed to stay level. All the strength is in your hips. All the cut comes from your hips, from your tanden, not from your arms, not from your shoulders. So this stressing of lower body is really important, very fundamental in kendo at very basic technique level, but also goes through to the philosophy of kendo.
But how is that related to breathing or breath control then, right? Isn't it all about leg?
Okay, well, it's a bit like ki, you know, and in some ways ki, you say lei ki, yeah? So the idea of ki or chi in Chinese is often interchangeable with the idea of breath, and some authors say so, but it's basically the same thing. But let's still keep on a physiological level. The way you breathe, if you look at meditation, for example, zazen, you relax by breathing. You concentrate on your breathing. You put all your sort of breath into your tanden, into the lower part of your body, and you feel the sort of the tension fall away from you. That's what on the physiological side, that's what meditation is about. And it's the same for kendo. If you're breathing properly, if you're like concentrating on your lower body, putting breath into your tanden, and consciously trying to lose tension from your shoulders and your back, you'll be able to move more easily. You'll get less tired. You won't be putting effort in where you shouldn't be putting effort in, where there's no need to put effort. Your movements become more fluid and your strikes become quicker and more effective. So posture, concentrating on your tanden, on your lower, on your kahanshin, the lower part of your body, is fundamental. And so that's why that's taught. That's why that's taught. It's fundamental to getting your breath right. And they're just two sides of the same coin.
Does meditation help kendo then? Would meditating help your kendo?
I think meditation probably has everything, doesn't it? Actually, mindfulness.
That's what they say, right?
Well, heijoshin is something which that it's a mindfulness that is aimed for in kendo. It's said, but I don't think. Yeah, I think it would. It doesn't going to harm it, but I don't think you need to do meditation to become good at kendo. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying that it might give you more insight. You might be able to better understand the role of breath control and how these things are all into, the posture. There's three elements in Zen, and it's mind, body, breath. Those things: posture, breath, mind. Those three things. And whatever you do to become aware of that will make you more successful in any martial art.
If I wanted to work on my breath control, are there any exercises or anything I should be practicing or thinking about while I'm doing my kendo or at home? Or
I don't think there are any exercises, and I wouldn't want to, because I don't want to stray into other martial arts or stray into like Reiki, for example, which is very much about breath. And Aikido, for example, there are throws in Aikido which are called breath throws, kokyu nage, for example. Yeah. But I don't want to go there particularly, because this is the kendo world and it's about kendo. But you are, without knowing, if you're practicing kendo, you are in fact, if you're practicing properly, reinforcing correct breath control. You should be. If your posture is correct, and for instance, in kendo, we kiai when we strike, kote mendo, and in different classical swordsmanship schools, they have different ways of kiai or hase of hase pronouncing.
Expulsion
of your voice.
Yeah.
Hase. Vocalization is how I translate it. So hase, and I think I did an article in Kendo World on that, and certainly did part of my thesis was on hase and the importance of vocalization in Kendo. Yeah, and now at a basic level, or even intermediate level, I guess, in everybody says kote or men or do, tsuki, because if they don't, you don't score the point. Yeah, so to score a point, to be a valid point, you have to, the Hase is part of it, which is fine as far as it goes. But actually, what the Hase is designed to do, what the vocalization is designed to do is at the moment, everything's supposed to be relaxed, okay? Everything, when you strike, everything's relaxed, and then everything comes together at the last minute. And in Kendo, we call that kikentaichi, and you get the perfect dato, so the perfect strike, yeah? Kikentaichi, bang, everything locks together. Same in karate, exactly the same. Everything's relaxed. Like for a second, it's tense. For a second, because if you stay tense, then that's not zanshin. You've lost everything. You can't move. You can't. You physically can't move properly. So the Hase is designed to do that. The Hase is designed at the moment of impact to bring all of your breath, all of your strength, by using your breath, bringing your strength and all your focus into your tanden for one moment, and it's bang. And so different ryuha of Koryu, of classical swordsmanship, have different ideas on that, have different sort of ways of what the best Hase to achieve the best sort of this kine. It's called kine, this focus at the end. So
you see some very weird ones out there. Like
yeah,
I remember Alex talking about one of he does Jiki Shinkage Ryu that has that very unique sort of, I don't know how to describe it. Breathe, even just on the focus on the breathing in part.
I think I've not practiced in that Ryuha. I have done some research on it when I was looking at when I was researching my thesis, but my thesis was concerned only with modern Kendo, so I didn't actually touch much on Koryu. But Shinkagiryu is very, very famous for emphasizing breath control. I think they could talk of aun, beginning and end, aun, kokyu. And certainly a lot of the very scant written matter concerning breath control in Kendo is penned by members of that ryuha. I mean, they do have exercises for where they don't do shiai, do they? I think they may do shinai Kendo too, but they do their exercises with a huge like bokken, bokuto. But that is all about breath. Everything is about breath. Everything is about your tanden and breathing in the right way and vocalizing in the right way. But again, this is the Kendo word, not Shinkagiryu word.
Well, I mean, we can really talk about anything, right? As long as it's vaguely related. I think a lot of people who do Kendo are also interested in classical martial arts as well, and certainly looking for insights that maybe they could take from these classical martial arts into the Kendo dojo, right? And that's why people still do things like read the Gordian no Sho. It's quite interesting, and breath control is also not really. It's not just about focusing on yourself, right? There's a lot of also about like matching breath with your opponent.
Yeah, certainly. Again, and I mean, I struggle to really talk about these things in isolation because they function at many different levels. But certainly, say, let's start at a lower level. Let's start at like a shiai level, yeah? Or even lower than that. Let's talk about kata. And you're matching your breath with that of your opponent or your partner, rather. And unless you're both in tune with each other. And again, they call this, it's referred to as aun no kokyu as well, when you're actually matching your kokyu, your breathing. Then that's very important in terms of getting the same rhythm, and rhythm and breath is really important too. So this brings me to the next point in terms of shiai, rhythm and breath. The natural people breathe in a certain way and they attack in a certain way, and they attack with a certain breathing rhythm. And if you can read that rhythm, you can see when that person's going to attack. Now it's obvious if your opponent is very as a beginner, not very good, because you'll go, and then you're hitting, so you'll see that coming a mile off. But just because you get skills doesn't mean that's not there. It's just very small. And again, we call this kyokuri, which is like sort of ascending of ki. And this is where the ki and breath is interchangeable. You can read somebody's intention to strike by reading their breath. And I don't mean consciously reading their breath. This is very high level now. At this level, you have to be able to just sense it. And you can, you'll sense something that seems imperceptible, but you'll perceive it imperceptibly, and read when a person is about to strike, because you can't strike while you're breathing in. You can't. You really only strike. You can not with any force. You have to be breathing out. So it's just when it changes and you see that, feel it, bang, you can do a Kaisi or Dewaza. So yeah, sorry, I forgot what your question was, but I think that's answered it.
I mean, what made you pick breath control as a thesis anyway? I mean, it's a somewhat esoteric topic.
Yeah, well, I guess it was, like I said before, I'm by training a sort of a social anthropologist, and I was looking at sort of ways of examining, you know, the difference between sort of Western culture and sort of Asian culture, specifically Japanese culture, in the context of a topic with which I was familiar and enjoyed. I did, the very first martial art I got into when I was still in the UK was Aikido, and they stress breath control a lot. And obviously Aikido, it's very abstracted now. It's a very abstract martial art. I think anybody would admit that. But it is based still on, you know, the same roots really as Kendo. And so I always think when I was enjoying Kendo, I'm thinking, well, why is nobody teaching me about breath? You know, I understand. I think I understand some lessons from Kendo, but no one really talks about it so much. So when I decided to go back to university and do my master's degree at the International Martial Arts University, IBU, I was asked, well, what do you want to write about? What do you want? You have to choose your thesis from the beginning, not actually before you start. And I said, well, maybe that. And everyone said, that's very difficult. Not much written about that. Very, challenging accepted. But as an aside though, I've done some, like you, Union, I've done some classical martial arts, some classical sword styles. And I've done some tameshigiri, which is the sort of cutting of like the bamboo things with a shinken, live sword. And I found the application of breath control in that absolutely massively helpful. And the first time I did it was saying, I was told, you're really good at this. And that was purely because I was breathing. Because I was studying breathing at the time, really concentrating very much on my breath control and making sure that I was breathing out and pushing my strength into my abdomen, into my tanden as I cut. And even in Nitoryu, I was cutting one-handed, making sure I was doing that. And it worked very well. And it was perceived to work very well by the people watching who were more experienced than me. So I really think it.
Tameshigiri is a lot harder than it looks, right? They make it look so easy in the video. I remember my first time doing it. You know, I've been doing Yai for like about a year and a half, 2 years by then, and I thought I was pretty decent by that point. But you know, God, put the thing in front of me, bam, tensed up, stopped breathing, got halfway through and got stuck.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, that is never going to cut anything. You know, you might give someone a headache, but you know that's not going to get to it. As if it's not there.
They talk about the wrists or the arms or keeping your back loose, but really, I guess, as you say, it is breathing is the way to do all that.
Yeah, to achieve that state is by breathing through your abdomen. That's how you achieve that state, that physical state that they're talking about. If you want to differentiate between them, classically, Japanese, Chinese culture doesn't differentiate between posture and breathing as we do, or between your mind, your mental breathing, state,
and intention as well, right? Because ki is often used as a substitute for intention, will, as well.
Well, I think that's a really interesting part, and that was really an interesting part of my thesis. I thought the part that I was interested in was examining the psychological change that happens when you breathe in a certain way. And this is well documented. It's documented even outside of Eastern civilization, Eastern culture, but certainly well documented, and also well documented scientifically that your brain changes if you engage in certain forms of breathing. Yeah, but you tend to relax more. You tend to be less tense, which is again a physical tense. Think of all these words which you can use for physical and mental, like tension. You're tense in your mind, you're tense in your body. So if you breathe through your abdomen, you become looser, not just in your body, in your shoulders, but in your head, you become less tense, become more calm, more able to react to what's around you. And I think if you just look at some of the sort of, even in English language, some of the phrases which are relevant to this, you say like if you, in terms of up and down and higher, being tense and being sort of, being wound up, for example, or you calm down, or your temper rises. All these phrases just in English, which probably points to a universality of this concept. That things up is weak, up is down is good. So,
aroused in the more biological sense, right? Your tension, your adrenaline's pumping.
And you're weak. You get tired. You're putting, like, you can't cut through the straw thing, the tatami properly, because you're using strength where you don't need it. You're moving, I remember when I first started doing Aikido, and we used to do a lot of weapons in the Aikido I did. It was slightly unusual. And my teacher used to say, pick up a jaw as staff. And he says, what is it with you guys? I see you throwing each other around. It's beautiful, circular, you're loose, you're relaxed. And then you pick up a stick and you become a stick. You get all tense. And it's true, and I did. And so to me, I'm not a natural kendo worker. It's always a struggle for me, because I do become a stick. And that was what I like about it. It's a challenge to pick up this tool, which is rigid-ish, and not become rigid-ish myself.
If so you said there was not much written in Japanese about the topic. Is there much, if someone wanted to read more or research more on breath control themselves? Are there any materials in English?
No,
books?
not really.
Or
just my articles probably, to be, in all modesty, the only thing I think written in English language about breath control in kendo. There's not much even, you could read it, especially there might be things in Aikido, things written in Aikido maybe about
well, not specifically kendo, but breath. I mean, I think I've seen in some of the sports science literature that they talk about diaphragmatic breathing or something like that.
Yeah.
Is there a difference?
Well, because my focus is on Japanese kendo and Japanese culture, all of my sources were mostly Japanese language, and some quite obscure texts. And if people look at my articles in Kendo World, they'll see how they're footnoted, for example. So if they read Japanese, they'll be able to see the sources I've used. Although I may have translated the sources, that might make it more difficult. I'm happy to give them the Japanese sources if they want them. But in English language, no, they're not very much, which makes me feel very guilty that I've not actually finished doing those articles. So perhaps I'll finish them off. I've done most.
We're ready to publish them anytime you're anytime you finish.
Okay. I did start to look at sort of what was out there, because this universality that I mentioned earlier, with the sort of the phrases in English that indicate that this might be a sort of universal principle, are interesting. And so look at, there's a book called In the Zone, for example, which talks about altered states of mind in sport at top level. And this is really where, towards the end of my thesis, where I'm taking the thesis is that if breath control and if posture and breath control can make you calmer and make you more aware in some ways, more able to react to things around you. Zanshin has got a mental and a physical element to it, for example. Then we've already accepted that breath and that we don't agree with the sort of I think therefore I am sort of Descartesian thesis of man. We're already tacitly accepting of a more Eastern sort of more holistic approach, where the mind and body is one, and two sides of the same coin. So because we're altering our mental state already by being more alert and being able to be relaxed. But I would argue that actually the aim of any form of aesthetic training is to carry forward this calmness, this ability to react around the world, not to cut yourself off from the world, not to have your ego interfere in things that don't need your ego, your consciousness. The best kendo anyone will ever do will be unconscious, not unconscious. But somebody will. I do great kendo.
The concept of flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. So some of the kendo, the best kendo I've ever done, and it wasn't very good, believe me. The best kendo I've ever done is, I thought, well, how did I do that? How did I do that? And somebody's moved or something, and I've seen the Miyokuri, and I've bang, without thinking about it, and the person has gone, well, that's really good. If the person's higher than me, really good. Or I've done something which I struggle to do just in practice, let alone in the middle of a jigeko, and it's not conscious; it's unconscious. Now, as soon as you do that, you think, "Oh, that was great," and you've lost it because your mind's thinking, you're doing a self-assessment. But the idea is to carry that forward all the time in your training, so that when you're practicing kendo, you're nearly always in that state of mind. You're always unruffled. You're always at one with things around you. There's no sort of, oh, I'm here and I'm going to move my arm now and I'm going to try this technique and this person will come in and I'll hit that. No, it's there, and it's all intuitive and it's all natural, and there's no ego in there. Now that is a different state of mind that we all live in every day. But that, lots of people say that is the natural state of mind. Our ego gets in the way too much when we walk around all like full of ego and full of we're putting the brake on all the time. And we're getting a bit into Zen teaching here, really, I suppose. And you don't have to be a Zen monk to do kendo, sure. But the idea is, if you can carry that forward in your training all the time, through breath and being totally relaxed and being in your posture and being, in this fluid state, your kendo will be much better. Your kendo, you'll get less tired. You'll be able to do techniques much more easily. You'll be able to react properly, and you'll enjoy your kendo much more. So, that's the ultimate aim, I think. It's not really the ultimate aim is that they carry that forward into your everyday life. But hey, I'm not there yet.
Any last advice for Kendoka on breath control?
Yeah, don't stress it, basically. Don't start thinking about breath control while you're training, because then you'll be all on breath control. Don't think about anything when you're training. Just do the techniques. Do the techniques physically, but stress. Really do work on your posture. Work on breathing into your abdomen. Let me just talk one little bit thing about abdominal breathing in kendo. That's what I said earlier. There are different sorts, and there's the one that I've come across really the best sort of description of breath control in kendo, the physicality of it, the physiology of it, was reverse abdominal breathing, Gyakushiki Kokyuho, which is counterintuitively, your abdomen expands as you breathe out, right? So if you think when you're you can practice this in kata really easily, yeah. So that's a good piece of advice to people who want to practice their breath control. Is in kata, when you're going forward, you should be breathing out, because you're attacking your seme should be exhaling as you seme, as you attack seme, whatever seme is in. And as you do that, then you should be pushing your abdomen forward, pushing your tanden forward, yeah, stressing the bottom part of your body. You're completely relaxed up here, but everything as if there's a string through your belly button and you're being pulled on it towards your opponent, yeah. Breathing out, very
that feeling of sort of settling down, and forwards.
Yeah, and this is how I used to do kata, especially when I was training, when I was at university writing my thesis on. And so you breathe out the whole time, and you stop, and you don't breathe in, and then you bang, do the strike. Well, it's kata, do the strike, but breathe out. And you don't breathe in until the zanshin part. It's tough. It's really hard. You get it. You'll get out of breath. You'll never done such kata. People think, oh, kata is kind of like easy. Thank God those jigeko's over. Now we're doing kata, I can have a rest. No. You practice kata like this, it's quite tiring, and it will increase the quality of your breath control, and so for the, and also when you're actually doing jigeko in armor, yeah, and it will just make the kata much more meaningful. A lot of people, I think, don't do kata, don't really see the correlation between the kata and the Shinai Kendo, but there is a correlation, and especially if you use breath control. I think I wrote an article on Kendo and breath control for the magazine as well. So everyone read that.
Yeah, and what you're describing is also very different than simply holding your breath or what maybe people traditionally think of as one breath kind of things. You're not holding it, right? You're letting it out almost continuously throughout this entire thing. Zanshin is not, you do your ki and then you hold your breath. You are still.
The only moment your breath stops, really, is when you at the end of the hasse on the kote, because it's kine. Everything stops then. Everything locks together for a split second, and then you release that. So you carry on breathing out, and when you're in safe distance, you can breathe in, because you haven't got zanshin when you're breathing in either. Yeah. In your, the yo is the breathing out, the in is the breathing in, and so you're in a weak position.
And no speeding up your steps either, because you're out of breath.
It's tempting. Yeah, actually, until we had this conversation, I'd forgotten that's how I used to train kata. Absolutely, because I used to think this is what I'm doing now when I'm doing kata is breath training. That was the most important part to me of doing it. Tough.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. People were really inspired by your article. They would love to hear more if and when you have the time to finish.
There may be another couple of
no pressure
in the pieces. No pressure. Okay. Cheers. Thank you.